complete or unfinished.
Welcome back to WD Magiccast for the week of April 22nd, 2023. This is episode 223 and the 5th anniversary of the WD Magiccast, formerly known as Disney Marvel's podcast. But we are now WD Magiccast, the show about the mouse, the Marvels, the galaxy, and beyond. I'm your host, Matthew Gracon. In this week's show, David Gallman and Matthew Leonard and I sit down and reminisce and come up with a list of our top 5-ish episodes of the past 5 years that we have collaborated on, not collaborated on, done, that the show is done, talked about, just many details. And some, maybe some shows that, you know, we're not as proud of, or moments we're not as excited about. But join us as we reminisce and maybe hear about some episodes that maybe you haven't heard of and maybe you should go back and check out. I also want to take this moment and apologize for the delay in getting this episode out. Personally, I've had a lot going on this week, and it's made it a little difficult to get things going. In fact, I will probably actually be taking next week's episode, taking that off. But hopefully we should be back the week after that. Stay tuned to the social medias to find out what's going on and make sure, when the next episode drops. That's why it's also always a good idea to subscribe. This way you always know when new episodes come out. Again, my apologies. Sorry. But, family first. Show comes second. And, but on that bombshell, we'll be back after these words from our friends and sponsors. And now, on with the show.
Listening to music.
Oh, actually, I was waiting for the counter, but apparently they've taken that away. Old things are new again, and things that aren't new are old again. I did not come up with a better introduction for this episode, but I been doing this now for a while. And how long exactly? It's been 5 years. Relatively today, actually, when this episode comes out, is the 5th anniversary of the show. And because I do not do this show alone as much as I used to anymore, and everyone seems to be appreciative of that, I had to bring on some people that have suffered along with me. Fortunately, not everyone here is able to join us as schedules have it, but two key people have come along.
Should we leave so they can come on?
back.
Well, sadly, they
Sorry.
said they couldn't show up.
Sorry. They got us instead.
We invited many important people. Fortunately, none of them showed up.
Yep.
But we have two other people that showed up instead. As you've recognized, one of the voices, that would be Matthew Leonard, who
Aren't
is...
you a little short for a podcaster?
Oh, the helmet.
Oh boy.
Well, did you know this is a thing that in the original sort of treatment for Star Wars, because George Lucas reuses his ideas,
Yes.
Luke was supposed to be short. He was supposed to be a midget, which later got recycled into Willow. But one of the only lines from that treatment is the line, "Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?" That's why that line is in there.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Learn something new every day. I'd never heard of that.
Yeah. Which is actually the line is even funnier when you realize exactly how tall Carrie Fisher is.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Which
yeah.
we've discussed on the show. But we won't
yes.
go into that.
we,
We should probably introduce the other guest.
and a man who needs all the introductions in the world.
Yep.
We wonder why he has a picture of Han Solo and Indiana Jones on his wall.
No,
I don't.
no. What are those? Are those commemorative plates? Are those Star
They're
Wars?
the old with the Hamilton collection things, the plates, from back in I don't know,
Wow.
early 2000. Yeah.
Wow. Those
It was like the heroes and villains collection or something it's called.
neat.
Yeah.
Dave Gallman.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Matthew.
I was distracted by your plates, which I've seen several times before when we've been
Right.
on, but I'm just now noticing.
Yeah.
And then is that a steering wheel? Why do you have my question is, why do you have a steering wheel on
That's
the
not a steering wheel. That is
It's a lever opener.
It's
It's a cheeseburger.
It's a shield from the Galaxy Star Cruiser thing that they got in Disney now. That's
Okay.
that's an actual shield that I guess you can either get a gun or a shield and you practice battles.
You have a
on the ship.
lightsaber or a shield to practice defending yourself with. Yes.
That's a great story, but no, seriously, why do you have a steering wheel on you?
It beats the picture of a sandwich I have on my wall.
Exactly.
You can drive his room.
Yeah. But yeah, I get
Hard to
halfway
stop
through
for.
the podcast, I'll just grab it up, pretend I'm driving. Oh, boy.
He's like a little kid. We give him the steering wheel. He's got something to play with while we do the podcast.
It lights up, makes sounds, the whole nine. Oh boy.
You can change the colors.
Yeah.
So what's this show about?
Yeah, what are we doing?
I said as if I didn't already know.
Well, at some point we were going to discuss the we're going to discuss our top 5 episodes for the show.
Top 5.
Yeah, 5-ish, and our own personal top 5, and then I have the I guess audience consensus of the top 5 listened to episodes.
Oh, really?
And then we have some other things that we'll probably smatter and throw in there at some point as well.
I've got to lead into one of the things. I got you covered.
Are you saying the show's going to go off the rails?
Us? No.
No, that is not
No,
possible.
for
That
our
will not happen this episode. That will not happen this episode. We haven't even gotten on the rails yet.
That's
Yeah,
right.
we're already off. As soon as you hit the record button.
There are rails?
Just
Matt
the ones
and I
my
are
feet are
known
tied
for
to.
our constant professionalism. We're completely devoted to whatever topic we're... Hey, squirrel.
That's awesome. And we lost the other Matt.
But aren't you wondering who I am? Where am I from? Why do I have?
Why is there a picture of a burger on the wall?
I got to come up with more Mystery Science Theater references for this
My-
episode.
you-
I keep
you
going
will-
back to the same
You
one.
will be pleased to know, Matt, about a month ago, we were talking about something over dinner. The whole family was there. Myself, my wife, my daughter, my son. And we were talking about something, and we got to the end of the conversation, and I just went, well, there you have it. And my 8-year-old son, without missing a beat, went, a letter opener.
Ah,
So we've corrupted the next generation.
fantastic.
All right. So, 5 favorite episodes, huh? So basically,
This one, no.
what you're telling us basically is that, like all great long-running shows, we've completely run out of ideas, so we're just going to do a clip show. Is what you're telling me?
Yes.
Okay.
Basically, yes.
Greatest hits. Greatest hits, Volume 1. We know how that turns out.
Oh, lordy.
No. We know that there's something else coming up. I mean, we have, we still have to review Mandalorian from this past season because I still haven't finished watching it yet.
Oh.
Then we have Ahsoka coming up in August.
Yep.
Which you said you already have someone yelling at you about.
My
talk
daughter's
about-
making very loud noises about coming back on the show. My daughter's making very loud noises about coming back on the show for Ahsoka.
Yes, and I can hear those noises all the way here in New
Already,
Jersey.
yeah.
And then there might be a couple of other things coming out, like Guardians of the
there
Galaxy.
There might be something else we talk about.
Hey,
And
Guardians,
there might be something else after.
There might be
yeah.
something else we talk about.
something that's coming to Disney Plus.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
May.
Oh, the Ed Sheeran special. Yes.
May.
There you. That's it.
Hmm.
That's it.
Mayhem.
Remembering elephants.
And it'll come to me. I can't remember what. Something in May.
So to kick off this episode, I think we should go with best looking first. So Matt,
Very sweet of you. How wonderful of you to lie. I gotta start, really?
yeah, sure.
Okay. I think, well, one of my, and these are for my 5 aren't in any particular order. They're just kind of in whatever I wrote down.
Yeah, same here.
But I think one of my favorites, and I think it kind of surprised me with how it turned out, was when you and I did our review of Muppet Christmas Carol together.
Great. You start off with one I have on my list.
Which is, I mean, anytime I'm on the show, you're going to notice a theme with my list. I've got like 5, and almost, I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to, no surprises here. 3 of them involve the Muppets. No lie. Because you know me, I'm passionate about it. I've been a Muppet fanatic. I was hungry for them since I was a kid. I love these characters.
You're born with felt on your hand.
I love when we get to talk about them, and one of the things that I've realized much later in life is that when I was a kid, what I was really upset, as much as I love the characters, what happens below the frame and behind the scenes is just as exciting to me as what's happening on the screen. So whenever I come on and whenever you and I talk about the Muppets, and we've said this before, yes, I know you and I are going to talk about Jim. Yes, Frank Oz's name is going to come up. But I'm going to take that opportunity to name drop Jerry Nelson and Richard Hunt and Steve Whitmire and Dave Goelz and the other performers who make these characters. We're going to talk about Jerry Jewell and some of the writers who have worked on these characters. We're going to talk about Don Saleen and Bonnie Erickson and Michael Frith and some of the designers and the builders who make these characters happen, because puppetry is not it's not something you do in isolation. It's all of these forms coming together to sort of make another art form. So that's important to me. That's something that's very important to me. And when we did Muppet Christmas Carol, I hadn't watched the movie. It had been at least a year because it was Christmas time, maybe even 2 or 3 years at that point. Because while I'd like to watch it every Christmas, schedule just doesn't work out. Oh, it doesn't always work out for me. So you and I were talking, and I said, well, I'm gonna toss the movie on and just sort of have it playing with the sound off, just so as I'm seeing it, it can jog my memory and we can talk about things. And it ended up being this thing. I ended up watching the movie more than no. We talked about it quite a bit, and there was a lot of stuff that we could pick apart and discuss while it was happening in real time. And then of course it became we did that. Well, we're gonna do. We did Christmas Carol. Let's do a Treasure Island review. So we did the same thing. We both put Treasure Island on, and we watched Treasure Island together while we talked about it. And then we did the same thing. We did Great Muppet Caper, and we watched Great Muppet Caper, and it was really cool to sort of like.
Did we do Caper?
Oh yeah, we did Caper.
Okay.
We did Caper 2 years ago because we were supposed to do there was a podcast that we were supposed to do with that other guy, and it didn't come through for us. And you're like, well, I got to do something. And I said, well, it was Caper's 40th?
Yes.
Right. So we said, well,
Caper.
let's do Caper. Let's put Caper on and let's watch Caper together. And it's really cool. It's just a lot of fun to like watch a movie with my best friend and talk about these things and share these things that interest me and that these things that I love. So I know that I recognize Christmas Carol as being sort of the kickoff for that, but also kind of the one that we did kind of the best. Because we didn't know what it was going to be until we did it. There were no expectations for what the show was going to be. We just we did it. Does that make any sense at all? What I just said?
No, it makes perfect sense because I had that on my list as well as the Muppet Christmas Carol. Again, for that reason that we kind of just came up with it on the spot. And I think it worked out well because we enjoyed watching it and we were able to discuss it again in real time as kind of like a watch along and be able to point things out. Yeah.
There are two other things. Which is it was when we did it, it was like a week or two before Christmas, and it was that really nice, wholesome, warm, like, it was a way for like you and I to celebrate Christmas together too, not just watch a movie together, but kind of like, two pals watching a movie together, celebrating Christmas. Two pals who love each other, honestly. You're one of my dearest best friends. Nobody knows me better and bounces off of me better than you do. So it was almost sort of this sort of quiet moment between the two of us, which is very rare. And then even more rare is because we were watching this movie, we didn't wander on to other things. There wasn't anything where we weren't like watching Muppets. It wasn't where, I come on, you're like, we're going to talk about Star Wars, and we end up talking about Captain America. Or we're going to talk about Marvel, and we end up talking about the Muppets. Or we're going to talk about the Muppets and we end up talking about Monty Python. Or we're going to talk about this, but we're really talking about the steering wheel on Dave's wall. None of that happened when we did Christmas Carol. We watched the movie, and so we were sort of, in a rare moment for us, laser focused on the movie. And if we wandered, we didn't wander far enough afield that was like completely off the rails. We were that show and both the Treasure Island one and the Great Muppet Caper, we were on. We pretty much stayed on the bus the whole time.
Yeah.
And yes, you can watch along while next Christmas, you can listen to us ruin the movie for you.
Absolutely.
You can watch along, put us on, and you can listen to us, these two idiots, talk about Christmas Carol while you.
Which is still a fantastic movie. It holds up so well.
So does the podcast of it.
Yes, it does.
I have no idea what episode number that is, but
that was some time ago.
Yeah. We can edit it in. You can edit it in later, like what at the end of the show. You can like these are the. You can do like a little bibliography at the end.
It is episode
for
97.
What is it?
97. Wow.
No, sorry, 67.
67.
Episode 67.
I know I wasn't 97.
No, yeah, 67. It's episode 67 from December 20th, 2019. Go back, check it out. Show's still under the old name.
Really? That was 2019?
That was 2019.
Oh, wow. That also, okay, that adds to something of this. Okay, I was going through some rough stuff at that time, so yeah, that was really important to me to have you there and just have a moment that wasn't chaos. Yeah.
That's the beauty of doing the podcast, man. No matter, what you got going on in your life, you sit down in front of the mic, you just talk and forget about all your problems, man. I've been there. Yeah. I know what he's talking about.
This is true.
Yeah, no, the store I was working in, there was a store I worked in and loved the job, and I've been there for 10 years, and it was going out of business, and it was exceptionally hard on me. So yeah, there's a reason that one is special to me. There's another reason I didn't. Yeah, that was probably more welcomed and more needed than I knew. At the time.
I think I remember you mentioning it at that point off mic.
Yeah. But that was 4 years ago, so now we can put my whole personal life on camera on the phone. Sorry. Go on next. I'll stop talking now, so somebody else can talk.
Dave's turn.
Dave, what do you want to talk about?
Want me to go over to me? Okay. Well, I'm gonna have to go with
the steering wheel down, Dave.
Wait, hold on. I got to get it off the wall first. No,
put the steering wheel away.
I'm gonna go with the original, the very first episode that Matt and our buddy Pete did with the episode number 177, the Skywalker saga, ranking them. That was my first attempt to getting into this stuff. We tried to do it, Matt, about a year prior to that, and we just kept kicking it down the road.
I want to say it was almost 2 years, but
was it
someone
2 years?
kept on putting us off.
It was. I think it was a combination of both of us, both me and Pete, that kept pushing. We all came up with excuses. We're not gonna do it. Blah blah blah. Whatever. No, we wanted to do it. It was just trying to get it together to do it, and finally we got together. We did. It was a long episode, almost 3 hours, but it was interesting. It was just to sit down with two people and just discuss. It was a nice Star Wars related discussion on all three of them, on all 9 movies basically. But it was like we had different rankings on certain movies. That's what was interesting on me. Like Pete would have ones that we thought weren't that good up at the top. You know what I'm saying? And so it was just cool to see where our thought processes were with these movies.
And I like that, because that's a thing that Star Wars fans tend to get very defensive about. Mm-hmm. Well, Empire Strikes Back is the best and Return of the Jedi stinks.
Right.
That tends to happen a lot. And when you do something like where everybody's sitting there and everybody's going to have their own opinion of it. And there are people who love the prequels and people who hate the prequels. And it doesn't matter. We've talked about this before on the show that, if you like Star Wars and you watch Star Wars, you're a Star Wars fan. And if 4, 5, 6 isn't for you and you like 1, 2, 3, you're not an idiot. You're just somebody who likes it. It resonates with you for a different reason. I know I love Star Wars Rebels. It's one of my favorite things in all of Star Trek. Or Star Wars.
Right.
Sorry. And there are people who are like, that show is garbage, who just hate it. Heck, you hate it, man. I love it.
Yeah, and it's funny because me and Matthew, we've talked about it. Like, it depends on your age group too. Like, depending on how old you are, depends on which trilogy. I get, like, if you grew up on the prequel trilogies, that's your Star Wars. You know what I mean? Like, I grew up on the original trilogy, so that's my Star Wars. And there's a new generation growing up on the sequel trilogy. So it all varies. So everybody's gonna have different opinions on which Star Wars is theirs. And with the beauty of it is you can go back, you can watch all of this stuff now. So
right.
And it's all being expanded.
And it's funny. People always go, oh well, so and so ruined Star Wars. So, no, they didn't, man. The original is still there. Well, actually, George Lucas did in some ways, but
his perfection.
I forgot about 1997. I forgot about that for a second.
Yeah,
but no, I mean,
then the re-release of the Blu-ray.
And actually, Return of the Jedi is the only one that you really like. Oh man, doesn't that you really don't need a musical number there?
Where you get a Wookiee for Christmas?
Yeah. No, the musical number in Return of the Jedi, that ruined Return of the Jedi for me, which is a shame because Jedi is my favorite of the movies.
I see now. I in the film class that I'm in this year, we just finished Star Wars, but he showed the original cut.
Yeah.
No additional special effects, none of that stuff. So there's the original cut of Star Wars. So, make sure to show the pristine. Even the crawl at the beginning just says Star Wars. But jokingly, I said to him at the end after it was over, it's like, okay, so we're going to show them now the true, because he was mentioning about, then came Empire and then came Return of the Jedi. I said, well, aren't we going to show them the true sequel to Star Wars? And he looked at me. I said, yes, the Christmas special. So, but yeah, I again, you guys must be looking at my list because I had that one on there, the Star Wars,
Did you?
the Skywalker ring. Yes,
Nice.
It was nice because if I remember correctly, we didn't really belittle each other at all about, because that's your list, this is my list, this is how I see it, and that's really what it is. Everyone has their own take on it. No one's wrong.
Yeah, there might have been a couple, huh? What?
Yeah, really.
That, but yeah.
But as I've said time and time again,
I wanna go and listen to that episode now so that I can belittle both of you.
Please.
Please do.
Go back to the steering wheel, Dave.
Yeah, I'm out.
Really?
Let me know when I'm up again.
That's your pick for the best Star Wars? Go back to the steering wheel. No.
Yeah.
But it goes in, like I've said many times on the show that every movie, more or less, except for Manos, The Hands of Fate, is someone's favorite movie. So yeah, you have to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
So, all right, I guess I should mention one now.
Eliminated half. Now that we've done half the work for you.
Exactly. We killed
Wow.
we killed 2 of his 5.
Yeah. I'm hunting Radar's choices.
I'm sorry because I realized I didn't write down episode numbers as I'm doing this. No, the what I'm going to start off with one that you and I did together, Matt. Was the Muppet Now episode with Matt Vogel.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that one. Having someone who has had their hands with Kermit on the show, we got to actually see Muppets Now before it actually came out.
We had NDAs that we had to sign.
Yes.
Really? Is that
We did. Yeah.
Wow.
They sent us. Was it? How many did they send us? They didn't send us all. They sent us like 4 of the episodes.
Right.
Yeah. I still haven't watched the last 2, honestly. I mean, I watched the screeners.
You of all people. You.
Well, we talked with Matt about the making of Muppets Now. You and I never really talked about our thoughts on Muppets Now. So
this is true.
But we loved it. I just never got around to watching. Maybe I'll watch the last 2 at some point.
I think we did discuss some of it. I think we discussed it, and I think it was a matter of that we came to the conclusion that it was something that, at least in my opinion, if I just remembering back, that even if we didn't, here's my take on it, that it was heading in the right direction.
Right.
It needed more time to be worked on and perfected.
Yeah.
As you said, even I think, and this is why I think we discussed it, because you even mentioned about the Muppet Show, that you look at the first 2 seasons, they're still figuring things out and still seeing what sticks and what works.
There's a lot in the first season of the Muppet Show that just kind of thuds as far as I'm concerned. And I love the Muppets, but there's a lot of stuff. The talking houses and that kind of stuff that just didn't work. But yeah. And I just kind of felt I got to a point with Muppets Now where I felt like after about episode 4, I kind of felt like I had seen it. Like if I had watched episodes 5 and 6, I wasn't going to be presented with anything particularly new. They had kind of covered it, and it was starting to get a little repetitive after episode 4.
Right.
After episode 2 or 3, it was starting to get a little repetitive, and you could kind of see what everything was. You know, they were gonna, if I can, without even watching, I tell you, 5 and 6, Swedish Chef. There was a guest star. There was a guest chef, and the turkey threw herself at the. You know, she was more interested in the guest chef that they had, while Chef brought in weird things, and they kind of looked at him quizzically while he brought in weird things, and that was kind of what all of the Swedish Chef sketches were.
They fell a lot in that line.
Right.
There was the bit with Bunsen Honeydew and Beaker.
Right. They do an episode, they explain a little bit of science, and then Beaker gets blown up while Bunsen tests whatever scientific principle they're discussing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, you know, what all of the Bunsen and Honeydew, the Bunsen and Beaker sketches were. Yeah.
So, but anyway, it was just one of those weird happenstance circumstances that came together that we were able to actually be ahead of a show instead of behind on the show. And it was cool talking to Vogel and getting his story.
Yeah. And, you know, for me, it was kind of like, I know, you know, like I said, I've been a lifelong Muppet fan. I've met a couple of the guys. I know I've read all of the books, Jim Henson the Works and of Muppets and Men, and I can't even think of all the Henson books, but I've read them all. I know all the backstories of the sort of classic. You know, I know everything about Jerry Nelson and Dave Goelz and Richard Hunt and Steve Whitmire and those guys. I know that stuff pretty inside out. I actually don't know a lot about the newer guys, the newer performers, and Matt is very much the newer generation of performers, and to be able to talk to him about carrying on the legacies of those other performers. And as I've said, you know, I always like to talk about the older guys, the guys who aren't Jim Henson. Matt is really, literally, for lack of a better word, a disciple of Jerry Nelson. Has taken over all of Jerry's characters, has worked very closely with Jerry, knows Jerry's characters inside and out, does a fantastic job with Floyd Pepper, and to be able to talk to him about taking over Floyd and taking over Uncle Deadly and playing those characters and how you carry on that legacy was really kind of eye-opening for me in a lot of ways and really interesting. So yeah, talking to Matt was a fun show to do.
So. Yeah, like I said, it was fun. It was great getting to know him. He just all around seems like a nice guy. So, yeah, that's where I'll lead off. And that puts the ball back in your court, Matt.
Does it not? See,
and he also loved confusing the hell out of me as I'm nervous as heck trying to run this interview.
That was also fun because it was Matt and me. And Matt, and yeah. I mean, it was just, and of course Vogel just had a ball with one of you'd say Matt, no, yes, no, not you, Matt, the other Matt. Oh, sorry, and specifically when it was really obvious that one of us was talking to the other one. Yes, what do you need? Can I help you? No, not you, Matt, the other Matt. I think I've said it was the only show where I intentionally started calling you Radar because he couldn't respond to that. No idea what that was. But I would actually refer to you as any other time I've called you Radar on the show. I slip up. I try to call you Matthew when we're on or Matt when we're on. Every once in a while I slip and call you Radar.
Which is funny because I was so panicking because we were also having technical issues with Skype at that time. You guys saw each other.
Right.
But you couldn't see me.
I think I was the only one on camera. I think his camera was off for that one. I don't remember him being.
No, because if I go back to the recording, I see both of you. I see him in his booth.
I don't remember watching him. I don't remember seeing.
Yeah, we were having a bunch of issues, so that kind of threw me off. And in true fashion, I got there a little after the time, and so it just everything was throwing me off of it. So it was it was a crazy episode, but I think it came out really well, and I really appreciate how that all came together, and just in the middle of the pandemic too, for all that to happen. So it was great.
Oh yeah, that was the middle of the pandemic. That was 2020. Was that 2020?
Yes, it was 2020. Yeah.
Or 21.
Let's see. That was August 5th, 2020.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay.
So, yeah. On to you. Your ball's in your court. What's your next one up?
Well, since we're talking about the pandemic, we should talk about one of my favorite episodes, which was our quarantine episode. Do you remember this? This was fantastic. Matt had this great idea at the start of quarantine, and only you would come up with, I've said, only you could come up with an idea. Matt came up with this great idea because he called me and he said, everybody's going through this whole pandemic thing. It's weighing everybody down.
Yes, I remember this one now. Yes.
It's depressing everybody. Let's do something. I want to sort of bring everybody up. Let's do a top 5 favorite feel-good movies. Only Matt could come up with an idea to do top 5 feel-good movies, and only Matt could completely ruin that idea by bringing me in. I'm a cynical, jaded individual. And it was fantastic because it was the start of quarantine, and it was really the first adult interaction that either of us had with someone outside of our pod in weeks. It was the first time that one of us had talked to somebody outside of the family. And you know how bad we are going off the rails to begin with. This was completely, we were super, super punchy that night. And I just remember, and laughing, and obviously both needing that laugh, because we started laughing. It was like we weren't even laughing at the funny stuff anymore. Any stupid thing that came out of our mouths. It was fantastic. It was so, and we talked about everything. We talked about just whatever nonsense. I don't even remember what was on either of our lists. I could not tell you.
Neither can I now. I'm sure I have it somewhere.
I could guess what a couple of my feel good. Disney's Robin Hood might be on there. I remember saying any Muppet movie was on that list. I don't remember what else. I literally don't remember what else was on my feel good.
I'm sure I said a Goofy movie.
That's right. Goofy movie came up. That's right. That was on my list because I said to you at the beginning that I've watched Goofy movie once and it hasn't been in several years. I'm going to need you to fill me in on what a Goofy movie is about, because I don't remember. I just remember that I liked it. I was so desperate for ideas, things that made me feel good. That was like a movie I've only seen once and don't even remember. I just remember that it made me feel good. That was all I could remember about it.
You know what's interesting? That's episode 80. If you want to go back to that, because that was April 22nd, 2020, and so also the second anniversary of the show.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Oh wow!
Fantastic.
That's awesome.
Fantastic.
It all ties in. But yeah, go back to episode 80 and check that out, because again, it's a positive list. So if you ever feel down, that's something you could go back to.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. So if there are any of you who listened to that episode and are still with us tonight, thank you. God bless you, because if you listened to that hot mess and decided this podcast is for me, this is the right podcast for me, you need help. It was fantastic. It was a hot mess of an episode. It shouldn't be a favorite, but it really is. It brings a smile to my face every time I think about it. Because we were insane. We were insane.
The positive list. That's what I called it. The positive list.
Positive list. It's the tender. And the only thing I remember that we kept saying every movie came back to one idea, which was it's the tender tale of a boy and his dog.
Yes.
Which somehow every movie suddenly became, because what David, we started out the show by literally telling people the greatest feel-good movie of all time was Old Yeller.
Old Yeller. Yeah. That's the top of that list.
that was at the top of both of our lists as the all-time feel-good movie. And of course, because it's the tender tale of a boy and his dog.
Yeah.
It is not the tender tale of a boy and his dog.
But a Goofy movie is.
There you go. Goofy movie is a tender tale of a boy and his dog. Lilo and Stitch came up. Lilo and Stitch is the tender tale of a boy and his dog.
Well, girl in this case, but yeah.
Yeah. Right.
The Muppet movie, it's the tender tale of a boy and his frog. I mean, it was fantastic. It was so, and it was just a pressure release, I think, for both of us to just be as stupid as I think we've ever been with each other before. And
we strive to top it.
Yeah, I don't think we can. I think the Loki episode comes close, just because we bounce around a heck of a lot in that one.
I remember that episode. Yeah.
It wasn't anything compared to, and I'll say that my favorite thing on the show ever was not actually recorded. It was the you have to go back and find this. It's the graphic that you put up that went with the Loki episode, which is all of these random images. I looked at it and went, what the heck is this? Because it's a picture of like Loki and Lightning McQueen and Statler and Waldorf and I don't even remember what picture you used, because we talked about I can't think of her name, Ming Na Wen, where her name came up in conversation. So you used some picture of her, it was either Mulan or Agent May or whatever you used to represent her. It's all of these random things in one, and I went, you put it up when you posted the episode. I kind of looked at it and went, the heck is this picture that I'm looking at? And then it slowly dawned on me, like, oh God, this is everything that we talked about in the show.
Yes.
Where we were talking about Loki. I mean, we talked about going off the rails.
Are you trying to find that picture, Matt?
Yes, I am.
Absolutely, there were no rails. There were no rails. There were nothing. It's just, and it was funny because it took me forever it took me a couple minutes to suddenly realize, like, oh God, that's what it is. And I went, this is our entire friendship in one infographic. This is exactly what it's like to be in a room with the two of us.
That's exact. That was back when I was doing the tags like that or promotional pictures. Yeah, and I just like, you know what? We talked about this. Oh, we talked about that. I'm trying to remember what year was that? When was that?
It was Loki's 2021. It would have been like June 2021.
It was 21. Okay.
Yeah.
So I just got to 21 in review.
Right, because we talked, and then when we did the wrap up, I was in Cape Cod. I was on my anniversary. My wife and I went to Cape Cod for our anniversary, so it would have been prior to July of 21. It would have been June-ish.
Yeah, Siobhan's only official appearance on the show.
Yep.
She's made some backdrop appearances, but never. So, yeah, that was. We're talking about the positive list, but we're on Loki. Somehow I think Loki's coming up on your list too.
No, because the quarantine episode, the positive list is my favorite thing. It's so. This is just sounds so backwards to say it's my favorite because it's sort of like it's not our best. And by any bizarre terms, it's probably the worst episode we've ever done, but in a very, very good way. Like it's so just goofy and stupid and hilarious and bizarre. And I love it. I love it. It makes me smile every time I even think about that episode.
All right.
But you're looking for the picture from
I'm
Loki.
still looking for the picture. I'm getting there. I'm getting close.
Because I don't remember what was in that picture.
All right. Let's see.
I remember Lightning McQueen.
Because it couldn't have been that one. So maybe it was the earlier one. Because at some point, because the initial one that I pulled, the one that I pulled up for this series review is that.
No, it's not for the series review. It was for,
You're right.
It was before.
So it had to be like the earlier one.
Early June. It would have been early June because I don't. Yeah, I think we had talked about maybe the first or second episode of Loki. So it would have been mid-June.
All right, so I just have to go back a little bit further. I'm in July because there's fireworks. Oh yeah, here's Muppet Caper.
Yeah, I remember doing Muppet Caper with you.
You have pictures of the glasses.
What?
The tumblers, the glass tumblers
the
from McDonald's.
Tumblers. I have one of those.
I have that one.
That's my favorite. I think that's why you found that picture, because I said that's my favorite.
Wait, that's not the one I have. This is the one I have.
Yeah, that's a good one.
They don't do that kind of stuff anymore, right? With those glasses.
No,
Sadly,
they've
no.
got lead paint in them.
And of course, here's the board game.
Yeah, the board game.
So you're saying I probably should stop using it?
Yeah, no, don't drink from the Muppet glasses. They've got lead in them.
Let's see here, Luca.
I just saw that recently for the first time.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, it was all right. It was better than I expected it to be. I didn't really have any expectations for it going in, but like, oh, that was actually pretty enjoyable.
Yeah, that's. Yeah, here we go.
Yeah.
But I get. Is this for Loki? It could be for Loki.
Yeah, that's it. That's fantastic. I love it. Oh, right. Because like the what's her name from Solo is in there. There's a picture of Falcon and Winter Soldier. There's a picture of Woody Harrelson from Solo. What's the Vision and
Vision
Wanda?
and Wanda. Yeah.
Wanda. What's the picture? What's the image there on the left? What is that? Is that Black Widow? Who is that?
Let's see. We got Woody Harrelson. We have the chick that was in Solo and in
Captain America
and Winter Soldier. We have Mulan. We have Lightning McQueen. We have President Loki. We have the chick again who's in her her thing in Captain America. We have Falcon and Winter Soldier, and then we have Wanda in Vision.
And sort of none of these things, if you look
and the picture of us in the middle.
Statler and Waldorf in the middle. And if you look at these, they almost have absolutely nothing to do with each other.
They're not really. Yeah.
It's entirely what we talked about. Everything in there is mentioned in the Loki episode.
And it's
that's not in my top five.
Completely connected.
It's completely connected. But that is my absolute all-time favorite thing on this show ever. Is that picture? I'm like, that's our friendship summed up. That is an afternoon with the two of us.
Yeah, that's any conversation we ever had.
It bounces. It bounces. And now we can bounce things to Dave. What's your next?
Yeah, Dave, your turn.
Okay.
Your turn.
This one may surprise you. I don't know, but for me, because it was only my fourth episode. It was the 185, the Thor: Love and Thunder review, because that was the one we saw the movie, we shot home, we recorded right after, so it was probably like 11 o'clock at night. Now, most of the stuff that I've seen, we would do like reviews on positive stuff, or we didn't have a real take on. I never did anything that there was a negative take to something. So I knew how I felt about the movie, but we didn't say anything about it when we got out of the theater.
Intentionally, we did not discuss it before going in.
Right. So it was a thing like, I don't know how, because I didn't know how he received the movie. So it was like, how are we going to talk about this one as not being a good movie? I wasn't sure how it was going to go. And then when he started talking and I got the vibe that he didn't like it either, I was like, good, I'm just going to write what he does and we're going to go for it. So I did enjoy that one. That was a fun one for me because it because we're not going to like everything we see. So it was like a little bit of a training for me to help, get a review out there with a less positive spin on it.
So let me get this straight.
Yeah.
Mr. Negative, his favorite was the positive episode. Mr. Positive, like the one about being negative.
Yeah.
And in case if anyone was wondering, the episode that graphic was attached to is 137, a low-key discussion.
So
I still haven't seen Thor: Love and Thunder.
You're not missing anything.
That's what I've heard. I haven't watched. I'm trying to think.
We know you didn't like Ragnarok. No, I thought you did. I thought you did see it because I remember saying to you, you're not gonna care for it because I know how you feel towards Ragnarok.
No, I said I have these are my thoughts on Ragnarok, and you're like, it's that but worse. And I just never. I haven't watched. I think I saw Black Widow and I saw the last Spider-Man No Way Home. I haven't watched any of the other. I haven't seen Doctor Strange. I still haven't seen Eternals. I still haven't seen Shang-Chi. I still haven't seen Thor. I haven't watched Black Panther. I haven't watched any of them. Wow. I've watched a couple of the shows, and the shows have been kind of haven't quite delivered the way I'd like them to. I've said a couple of times the last couple of times I've been on the show. I'm out of love with the Marvel Cinematic Universe right now, and I'm. Maybe I'll get back into it at some point, but Marvel movies come out and I don't. And this Marvels is the first trailer that I've watched and went, oh, I'd actually like to watch that. That looks like fun. Yeah. But everything else, I've had no interest in.
But you watched Miss Marvel, right?
Yeah, I did watch Miss Marvel. I liked that was one of the few. I liked that, and I liked Hawkeye.
Yeah, but the main reason why I was asking because that obviously ties right in with the Marvels. Yeah. So you need to see that in WandaVision. I know you saw WandaVision.
Yeah.
Otherwise, and for anyone listening, if you haven't watched WandaVision and Ms. Marvel, you need to watch that going into the Marvels.
That's your homework for this month. Yeah. Which is as I've said, is one of my problems with a lot of the Marvel movies is I get tired of having to do my homework beforehand.
Yeah. Yes,
but Thor 11, that was the proof that they were sputtering. You know what I mean? Like that was your prime example. Like they needed help, they needed a new direction or something because they brought Thor to a different level in this movie, and it wasn't a good level.
So much potential.
Yeah,
I think a part of that is one Taika Waititi. Mm-hmm. That he's like, oh, we're gonna make something lighthearted and fun. It's like, no, you got to sort of tamper it. You can't wait for the joke. But I think a bigger problem than that, and again, Matt and I have talked about this. Chris Hemsworth did Ghostbusters 2016, and they were like, oh, like that was the he's like, oh, this is a comedy. I can do comedy now. I'm funny. And if you watch the two Thor movies, it's a completely different performance in both Ragnarok and in Love and Thunder than it is in the first two Thor movies.
So you think the Ghostbusters movie had a correlation to it?
I think it ruined him. I think it really kind of now he does everything with that same kind of like look at me, be funny. Which is have you seen? Did you see the 2016 Ghostbusters? I
have not yet. No.
Okay. No. The whole movie is you can see the actors being funny, like I've told the joke and now we're gonna laugh at it.
Oh wow.
I'm being funny. This is me doing comedy. And so Chris Hemsworth has now learned that like that is comedy and that is how comedy is done, and that is now in the other
comedy
movies.
Yeah.
Right. As opposed to but the same thing is if you watch like the Avengers, particularly if the first Thor, and if you watch Avengers particularly, he is naturally funny. Comes up with very funny things. But what's great is he kind of doesn't acknowledge that he's funny. Right. He just sort of does it, and it gives you. But in Love and Thunder, it's that very much like let's pause for the joke, let's wait for the joke, let's hold up the action for the joke, and like no, you can't stop the action of the movie while you tell the joke. The two have to travel at the same speed.
I mean, prime examples. So out in Love and Thunder, you have the bit of there are two vehicles in space flying, and Thor jumps up, does a split in midair, and stops them with his thighs and holds them there in midair.
Yep. That tells you all you need to know.
That's supposed to be funny. Let's go back to the original Thor, and he's sitting at the diner, and he drinks down a coffee and says, "I like this. I want another," and smashes the cup.
It's a great moment.
That's what you do on Asgard, but it doesn't translate to what you do on Midgard or Earth.
Yeah.
That is funny, but it's not
the best moment in all of
trying
the
to
best,
be funny.
The best moment in I think any of the Thor movies is in the second one when he goes back to her apartment and he's hanging Mjolnir on the coat rack.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic moment. It's hysterical. And that was him just screwing around. He walked in, he had the hammer. He realized he had to put the hammer down and didn't know what to do with it. So he just hung it up on the coat rack. Mm-hmm. And the director caught it on film and was like, "That's in. It's in." And again, it's a naturally funny moment. Whereas I'm thinking of something, again, I haven't seen Love and Thunder, but the opening scene in Ragnarok where he's spinning around on the chain. It's like, okay, wait, I have to come around so I can see you.
Right.
And like, this is a really, really slow start to this movie. Mm-hmm. If we're waiting for him to spin around so that he can face the villain. Okay, and now okay, good. Okay. Oh no, now there's this conversation. Now we're going to talk, and they're going to spin around. This is not funny. This is not funny. This is killing the opening of this movie.
Yeah. Reminiscent to the "Can you hear me now" moment in one of the Star Wars sequel movies.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Last Jedi. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I'll hold.
Yeah.
I that part didn't sit with me well.
Yeah.
Where I was going to go back to Age of Ultron when they're having the party, and he pulls out this special, like a small flask of something. It's the Stan Lee moment. He's like, "Oh, this was aged, and whatever it was, explaining how this, mere humans cannot handle this." And Stan Lee's like, "Oh, I fought Nazis. Bring it on." And so again, just a funny without being like overly stupid moment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Anyway,
moving on.
Moving right along.
Your turn, Matt.
Huh?
Your turn.
All right. So I'm going to come. Isaac's not here, so I'm going to remember him for remembering the Titans review that him and I did, episode 97. Whatever reason took me forever to see this movie. And in all fairness, if you go through the playlist of this show, you'll see that there's a number of like overdue reviews, movies that I haven't either done a review for, or it's because I just finally got around to watching them many years later.
Took him 30 years to review Muppet Christmas Carol on the show.
This is true.
I mean, come on.
Just wait till we review Steamboat Willie.
We should. That'd be awesome.
We could do it.
That'd be great.
But yeah, so we did remember the Titans, and it was great to sit down with Isaac and talk about this movie, and the profound effect that it had on me. I heard people say it was good. I didn't expect it to be that kind of movie. And then, just getting that interaction, it was kind of like a last minute thing that I threw at Isaac. He's like, "Yeah, sure, absolutely, we'll do it." And getting also his perspective of the movie, because what the movie's about, and it played out really well. And it was just another episode that I really enjoyed. Something we'd be able to talk about. And going beyond just talking about the movie, but culturally and a whole bunch of stuff like that. So, yeah, episode 97, Remember the Titans. I'm passing the letter opener to you.
Good choice. I have the talking letter opener.
Yes.
Yeah, let's do this one. The Mike Quinn interview. Which I think is going from, I said the episode that I thought was like the worst thing we've ever done, which is one of my favorite things the Mike Quinn interview really is, I think, the best thing we've ever done. It was Mike Quinn, for those who might not have heard this episode or don't know who he is. Mike Quinn is a puppeteer. He's been in the industry for 40 years. He worked on The Great Muppet Caper with Jim Henson, worked on countless Henson specials and movies, was an animator for Pixar for a brief period, did some of the puppetry that was involved in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, plays Nine Nub in the Star Wars movies. I mean, this guy's had an incredible career. I mean, we were talking earlier about talking to the old guys, you know, Dave Goelz and Steve Whitmer and Jerry Nelson. Mike Quinn was one of those guys, man. He worked with those guys directly again. And
not just that way. I remember from that episode, which is episode 85, by the way.
Yeah.
Because I had it on my list too. He would go to, instead of getting signatures, autographs, he came up with this idea of voice autographs.
Yeah.
So he would take his tape recorder and have these people say something. So he has audio tapes of Jerry Nelson and Jim Henson and all those guys, Jerry Jewell.
Doing all of their characters.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally like it wasn't like I'm going to get Frank Oz to sign this. It was literally he would just go up to Frank Oz and Frank would just run through, you know, Piggy, Fozzie, Animal, and Sam Eagle for him and do all those characters. And then he'd go and he found Richard Hunt, and Richard Hunt would go through Scooter and Janice and Beaker and Statler and Sweetums for him. And then he went and he got Dave Goelz, and Davey did Zoot and Gonzo and Bunsen and Beauregard for him. And that's fantastic. And, you know, we were talking earlier about how you and I go off the rails and we bounce around, and the way you and our friendship is, we have a shorthand with each other that allows us to bounce back and forth and bounce around conversations like two drunken squirrels with ADHD.
I could have said it better myself.
Two hyperactive drunk squirrels. But we always sort of, you know, eventually we do come back to, you know, it circles around. Mike was the perfect guest for us because we could bounce the conversation. We could bounce from Muppets to Who Framed Roger Rabbit or Muppets to Star Wars and back to Muppets. And Mike's got the career that he would just go with it. You know, it was perfect. It's sort of similar to Christmas Carol, where we could. It was almost a fine line of we were laser focused, but we could bounce around in a way that we do, and it still sounded like we're focused on this, you know, on one track. It went off the rails, but it looks like we're still on the track, which was a really weird experience for us.
Yes.
But it was great, and he was a joy to talk to. He was an absolute joy to talk to, and it was so swell. I'll tell a little behind the scenes story. I follow Mike on Facebook. It's just a thing. I don't know. It's just he's on there. I follow him. Matt messaged me and he said, I'm thinking of expanding the show. I'm thinking of starting to bring guests in. I've had a couple people in. Who's your short list? You know, who do you think? I remember but what you specifically said was I'd like to get one of the Muppet guys.
Yes.
Who do you think would do it? I don't know. Let me put some thought into it. And we kicked around a couple of names, and I was actually on Facebook, and Mike posted a thing. He was like, "Oh, I was on the such and such Star Wars podcast. We talked about this one. Oh, Mike Quinn does podcasts. Mike would be perfect." And I emailed you and said, "Look up this guy. His name's Mike Quinn. This is who he is. This is what he does. You should get him on the show." And you reached out to Mike. Mike said, "Sure, I'd like to do it." This was in the middle of quarantine, and the morning that the interview was set up, Matt sends me a message. It says, I was supposed to meet up with Mike Quinn to do the interview, but I can't find him. He's not on. But, that's weird. I'm like, well, good luck. I don't know what to tell you. Oh, no. Kind of forgetting the fact that that I follow him on Facebook. And then about 20 minutes later, I'm on Facebook scrolling through, and I see this message from Mike Quinn that says, "Does anybody know the name of the podcast?" I don't suppose anybody reading this knows what podcast I'm supposed to be on today, because I don't have it written down. I don't have any of my information. And I piped up and me, Mr. Quinn, I know, it's my best friend. I connected the two of you together again. together again. Got you guys together. And it was fantastic. And then so you guys you rescheduled the interview, and then you called me and were like, hey, thanks for helping out. You want to? I could use your expertise in terms of Muppets on this. Do you want to come in? I was like, yes, absolutely. And I with like 24 hours notice. And I just I remember that afternoon we went out for because it was during quarantine. My family and I went out for a hike, which was kind of what we were doing at the time. And I just the whole hike that I was out with my family, like at periodic moments, I would stop and go, I'm interviewing Mike Quinn tomorrow. Like what? Like I could like trying to wrap my brain around the fact that I had to do this interview. And being terrified of doing this interview, but Mike got on, and he was very British and very sweet and cuddly.
Let's not forget he also had trouble getting on because he didn't have a Skype account.
Right. Oh, that part of it.
It took us a bit of like conversing back and forth of trying to walk him through on how to get connected on Skype.
But it was a great interview and so much fun to do, and thank you for letting me be a part of that, because it meant so much to me to be a part of that and to talk to one of my heroes. And but here we go. This is my second favorite thing on this show of all time. And again, it's not recorded; it's just an image. And Matt sent it to me, which is the picture of me doing this interview. Mike is talking, and I'm just sitting there. Like a kid, just sitting there with my hands in my face, or my head in my hands, and this gigantic grin just spread across my face, listening to one of my heroes talk about Star Wars, about Muppets, about Who Framed Roger Rabbit, about the Muppet Performers, about how one of my favorite Star Wars characters got his name. I mean, just all of these. Talking about Fraggle Rock. Mike talked about Jerry Jewell, who was the head writer for the Muppets, and I was so thrilled because I again try to fit Jerry Jewell into every conversation that I can when we talk. I didn't have to do that. Mike did that for me. He just threw Jerry Jewell's name into the conversation and talked about how great Jerry was. It was such a joy to do that interview.
And he gave us all the time. It's almost a 2-hour episode.
Yeah, it was great. I loved that. I loved having that conversation. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Next.
Dave.
I'm up.
Yeah.
Yep.
You can put the steering wheel down.
Okay, this one for me, we kind of, Matt's like, let's do something a little different. The Super Bowl halftime show episode. This one was because the episode 214. That one, there was a lot of research on this one, because we're usually doing movies, Star Wars, blah, blah, blah. This took me out of that. So I'm like, I don't want to sound like I don't know what I'm talking about. So there was a lot of research on this one. And, I had the Wikipedia screen up of all the Super Bowls, who played at each halftime show. I had to watch all this like grainy old VHS footage of what was it? 1977 was the first one or something? 71 or something. It was whatever the first one they had.
1982 or something like that. Yeah,
right.
It was back
then. So
no, you're right. No, it was the 70s because it was the 70s Mouseketeers. So it was like 77, 70.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But thankfully there was only like 6 of them. So it wasn't like there was a ton of footage that we had to watch, but it was enough that we had to get through it, and it ended up being for me, it was entertaining to talk about all this stuff, discussing, doing the breakdowns of each one, and which one was our favorite of the 6 and stuff. So it was, for me, it got me out of just the normal, okay, I'm here for Star Wars, kind of stuff. So it was fun. I enjoyed it.
What episode number is this? I want to listen to this one now.
214.
214? I gotta find that.
Yeah.
I want to listen to
that. And that was just earlier this year. So
yeah,
it's not too far down the list.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, we could pull you in on this one, but we know how once you get started talking about football, it's the conversation goes.
Yeah.
It almost immediately turns to Muppets at that point. I had no idea. Pigskin. Pigs in space.
I don't think any of the Muppets were in any of the halftime shows, right? I don't remember seeing any of them. So no.
Yet I see that every year with all the Muppet forums I'm on every year. Like every Muppet fan page is like, we want the Electric Mayhem. Almost specifically, we want the Electric Mayhem to do the halftime show.
Yeah.
I would love that. And I
the
think
other one I see is a lot of people saying the Muppets should host the Oscars, which I also agree with.
yes.
Well,
a lot better than many.
There are a couple, like they do have a couple coming up, right? Disney has a couple halftime shows in the future, so maybe you might see them.
There you go.
Yep. I mean, there was one with Indiana Jones.
Yeah. 92,
cool.
95, something like that. Awesome. Yeah, that was the best one they had.
I think that we unanimously said that was our favorite.
Yeah.
But that was funny, and leave it to me to try and connect like random things in Disney together. I remember one day sitting there on my couch going, Martin Luther King Day is coming up. I wonder if he has anything to do with Disney. Look, I was able to make the connection.
Yeah.
And I've gone to several of my history teachers at work, especially around Martin Luther King Day. And I know that they're like Disney people or whatnot. And I go, hey, did you know? They're like, what are you talking about? Listen to this episode. Martin Luther King, it was like 3 weeks before he was assassinated, stayed at the Disneyland Hotel because he was doing a convention, the Democratic convention, across the way in Anaheim at that time. So, never says if he went to the park or not, but he did stay at the Disneyland. So therefore he was technically in Disneyland at that point. And this, again, he made one of his famous speeches at that time, and about not just minimum wage. He was explaining it's not just for desegregation, it's about equal rights for everyone. And really getting on his platform that no, I'm not just talking about desegregation. I'm talking about we need to be unanimous for everyone. Everyone needs to come together. We need to pay everyone properly. We need to pay, and I think that
don't say that too close to the Disney parks, man. They don't want that kind of talk.
This is true. And so it was a very interesting to do research on that and to talk about that. And again, sadly it was happened right near the end of his life. But and like I said, it's just random things. Like, okay, how can I do ESPN, which is okay, Disney company, how to pull that in here, and like just trying to connect random things in Disney, which other contemporaries don't necessarily do. And that's why I try to keep this on a more broader brush, even though some people tell me you need to narrow the focus or change the focus. I'm like, no, I keep the focus the way it is, because this way I can talk about anything.
Have you listened to this show? We have no focus.
In fact, I was going to say we are out of focus.
Go back to the first 5 minutes of this episode. Then start lecturing us on focus. I think what they were trying to tell you, Matt, was just you need to focus.
Yeah.
I don't think they're talking about the broader. I think they're talking about the actual individual episodes themselves. Like, maybe pick one topic and stay on it.
Where'd the fun be?
Yeah.
Muppets, Robin Hood to Jack Benny to MASH, to the Muppets to Monty Python, and back to Star Wars is a little bit of a jump.
Yeah.
Just to talk about the latest episode of Loki.
Ludicrous speed, go! My turn, isn't it?
Yep.
All right, I'm losing track. What number is it? We're on 3, so I will say I'm gonna give you a twofer because it was a 2-part, even though it's 2 different episodes. Was my Disney afternoon discussions.
Oh,
so episode 100 and episode 101, which started off as 2 and I combined them as 1. Talking about the creation of the Disney afternoon with the creators of the Disney afternoon, Jim Magon in episode 100 and Tad Stones in 101. Both of them they were so generous with their time and the stories that they shared. And again, leading in directions that I did not expect from these 2 gentlemen. Jim going all the way back from his earliest days growing up. It was in Chicago, I believe it is, and his move to California and starting in the records business, and then pulling together Disney Afternoon, just working in this little closet, and trying to, pump out episodes and get things going. And to writing the Goofy movie and having how many treatments and stuff that kind of how the direction that spun in, unfortunately. And then Tad Stone talking about again his start in the Disney company and creating wonderful shows on Disney Afternoon, to going to Imagineering and eventually leaving Disney and working on one of his favorite projects, Hellboy. And just two wonderful gentlemen who just gave such great interviews, in such fantastic stories about something that I enjoyed so much growing up as a kid. Remember coming home and running to watch the Disney Afternoon,
right?
And enjoying these shows and hearing from the gentlemen who were integral in creating that and putting Disney television animation on the map.
Yeah, and really a quality of animation that, God, I wish we had on television, and it's not there, unfortunately.
No.
But yeah, those are two episodes that I keep meaning to go back and listen to, and I haven't yet. Because I'm terrible. No, I don't have time to listen to podcasts is my problem. I don't even listen to the shows that I'm on. Of course, I've recorded them, so I know everything I'm going to say.
That's all right. I don't listen to the show either.
Yeah, I'm not even listening to it right now.
Am I the only one that listens to it?
Yes.
I'll show you our ratings.
I've told this story on the podcast before, and I'll tell it again. My daughter asked me, she's like, "Oh, Dad, what episode of the podcast, Radar's podcast, which one was this episode?" And I think you were on vacation or doing something, so I didn't want to bother you. I said, "Oh, I'll find it for her," and I started looking it up. And I'm scrolling through episodes of the podcast, and I see this thing that goes, Muppets letter review, Muppets letters to Santa Claus. And I thought, well, that's weird. Normally, if he does a Muppet thing, Matt usually has me on. And then I start reading the description. It's like, join guest host Matt Leonard as we talk about it. I'm like, oh, I am on this one. I had no recollection of it whatsoever.
I remember that.
I had no idea. And it was only maybe an hour later, I'm like, oh, no, I actually do think I remember doing that, maybe a little bit. But I had literally, until I saw the description of it, no memory of it. No, and there are probably another 3 or 4 that I'm on that I would, if you asked me, I'd be like, no, I'm not on that one. Mm-hmm. I never talked about Loki. Oh no, I did talk about Loki. What do you know?
There was that. I remember one time you also be asking me, well, she's going on vacation. Is there any episodes that actually have to deal with Disney World? I said, oh yeah, here. Listen.
Oh yeah. That's right. That was another thing. Yeah, we sent my daughter went on vacation with friends of ours to Disney literally about a year ago, and I was like, can you send me everything you have on the park so that she knows what to expect?
In all fairness, so your daughter's actually listened to more episodes of this show than you have.
Yes. Well, we had.
I have the wrong Leonard on.
Yeah, you really do. You really
It wasn't so late. I said I was going to say for you to bring her on, but I knew it was going to be late.
She would have loved that. But no, yeah, she did an episode with you when she got back where you guys talked about Disney World. I made a guest appearance. I came in and just
kept on creeping through the door.
Poked my head in the door and made harassing comments a couple of times, but
yep.
I didn't listen to that episode. So this is how terrible I am.
Your own daughter.
My own daughter was on this show.
You know what? I'm going to message her right now. Your father has not listened to your.
No, but like I said, I don't have time to listen to podcasts, so I haven't listened to you talk to Jim McGone, who's a hero. I haven't listened to you talk to Tad Stones, another hero. I haven't listened to you talk to my own daughter.
I get you were her hero.
You know probably more about her trip to Disney World than I do.
And that was such a sweet episode. Just hearing her reminisce and talk about her trip and just how much you enjoyed it. And just watch her face light up.
That's
talking
another
about
one I should listen to. I really should. It was really cool because I was able to kind of like, you know, I didn't, because it was you, I kind of didn't have to worry. I could just kind of like, oh yeah, she's with Matt. He'll steer the conversation. He'll know what to do. He's a smart guy. I don't have to listen in on this. And I didn't feel like I had to be in the room to sort of stop to sort of stop anything bad from happening, you know? Not that anything really terrible happens on this podcast. You know, I could just trust you guys to have a good conversation. Although I did come up a couple of times and just sort of poked my head in, conversation's still happening. All right. And then, said hi and went on my way.
Yeah, that's episode 173. First timer's trip to Walt Disney World.
Yeah, I'm now making a list of episodes I need to listen to. I've got 214, 100, 101, and 173 I need to listen to.
Yep, April 27th, 2022.
Yeah. So that's the 4th anniversary of this show. Just about.
Did I label as that? I might have.
Probably. Maybe. I don't know.
I might not even realized it.
Why are you asking me? I didn't listen to it. I don't know. See,
yeah.
Now we've just proven that Matt isn't listening to this episode.
I told you I don't listen to these episodes.
Not even listening to this one. Is it my turn?
Yes.
I think did you just go twice?
No, I combined two.
No, because weren't you talking about Martin Luther King a minute ago? And then you were talking about Jim McGowan and Ted Stones.
I just talked about 4 episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you not realized how I do these top 5s?
He's done. He went through his 5.
Out of how many top 5s we've done, you've never realized I'll snowball like 3 or 4.
You usually talk about one thing on your list, and then you pass the talking stick to somebody else. And now you're like, no, I have the talking stick now because it's the only way.
Wait. We've been doing this how long? Especially the top 5s, because I know I've done a number of top 5s with you.
The very first episode I did on the show was a top 5.
Right.
Yep.
And you've never noticed that I will sometimes snowball a few together?
No.
Now he's got to go back and listen to all those. Write them down.
There are a couple. No, because there are a couple where I see what you know, because I do that too, where we kind of you sort of neatly pack.
Particularly the Muppet one.
Well, let's save something for later.
Yeah. Anyway, so go right ahead.
No, actually, here,
this is yours.
I'll give you a different one. I'll give you a different one. The DuckTales one. You and I did our top 5 favorite episodes of DuckTales. I did the classic series, and you did
the classic. I did the new one.
Newer series. And let me tell you, that was that was hard. That was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. Trying to come up with my top 5. I couldn't even do top 10. I couldn't break it down into that was hard. That was harder than coming up. My top 5 favorite Muppets had it in seconds, knew it in seconds. Top 5 favorite episodes of DuckTales, I was toast. I came into that episode weeping because that is the episode that broke me. It really
episode
did.
130.
And I did the same thing as you. I anytime I'm going to talk about this episode, but I'm going to talk about these other 3 episodes at the same time under the guise of talking about this one episode. Because it was the only way that I could do the DuckTales episode, the top 5 favorite episodes of DuckTales, was if I talked about 4 episodes at a time. And my favorite, this is not on my list, but I'm shanghaiing this anyway. One of my favorite things in that episode, we actually did it on a Saturday morning, and Matt goes, the boys are watching TV. They may come in a couple of times. They may interrupt. And I said, fine, whatever. if you need to go take care of the boys, I will vamp. I'll fill. So I talk about this one episode of DuckTales, and I go off, and I take off, and I'm talking, 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 and I went on forever talking about just one episode of DuckTales, and I literally get to a point where I'm like lightheaded. I'm out of air. There is nothing left in me, and I'm so glad I'm at the end of everything I have to say, so I can finally pass the show over to Matt, and he can talk. And right on cue, one of the boys knocks on the door. Goes, Daddy, could you get me some cereal? I was like, sure. And Matt sort of points like the 1 minute sign and walks out the door. And I'm like, and I have absolutely nothing left in me. If you go back, if you find this episode and you listen to it, you can hear it. You can hear me go, and that's my favorite episode. One of my favorite episodes of DuckTales. and another one of my favorites is Return to the Klondike, where like oh god, no. Like I said, that is the episode that broke me.
Episode 130.
And that is why episode 130 is not on my list of favorite shows. That was painful. That was hurt. Can we talk about an episode that I did like now?
Yes.
All right. See, I did that same thing where I did the same thing now where I just was talking about something else, but I'm making the same thing. Okay.
I was looking at him, but talking to you.
Exactly. Since we actually were just talking about my daughter being on the show, really one of my favorite episodes was the first time we had M on. First of all, we had great subject matter. Which was
I know exactly which episode you're talking about. Go
Ahsoka appeared Ahsoka was going to be on The Mandalorian and was on episode 5 of season 2, I guess it was. I was like, oh my gosh, Ahsoka, yes. Fans had been looking forward to this. I had been looking forward to this. My daughter had been looking forward to this. This was literally, I don't think it was like the week before because I knew this was coming. I sort of grabbed her and I'm like, hey, there's this thing on Disney Plus. You got to start watching Mandalorian with me. So the first episode she had seen was the episode the week before. And now she was like, it was literally like the second episode of Mandalorian she had ever seen. Here was her absolute favorite character in live action, the blades and everything, and just there. And Matt called me and he said, look, it was the same thing. It was like, this character a little bit better than I do. Could you want to come in and talk? And I was like, I could, but if you really want somebody who knows the character better, I've got an expert. I've got somebody who knows the character backward and forward. You want to have my daughter on? Like, yes, absolutely. So M came on the show. And it was so great. And I think part of the reason that I was so comfortable leaving you guys to do the episode about her going to Disney World was because I had this experience with you. And it was so great because it was a 3-way conversation between the two of us. I actually did go in a little bit with the fear of you and I and just the way that we are with each other and knowing how you and I bounce off of each other. I didn't want to I didn't want her to just be in the room while you and I talk. I wanted to engage. So I had 2 or 3 questions that I specifically wanted to ask her to make sure she was part of the conversation. And I was so thrilled at one point. And again, if you listen to the episode, you can hear this moment. You actually turned to her, even before I did, you turned to her and were like, Em, what do you think about this? Or what were your thoughts on this? And there was a question that was very geared specifically at her and toward her and her perspective as however old she was at the time when she was on the show with us.
This was 2020.
Yeah,
December 2nd.
as a young, female audience member of this show, as someone who this character is specifically aimed at, really having having a perspective that you and I would not have. We really got to really get her perspective and to get her take on things and for her to just kind of be one of us, I really, really appreciated that. And I was after Mike Quinn, it's like the second best thing that we have done together, or the second best thing ever. It was really, really well. And I love being with her. She also got a taste of you and I, what it's like to be stuck in a room with two of us. We bounce off of things, and for some reason, we ended up talking about DuckTales that morning. I don't remember how we got on the subject of DuckTales. We started comparing our DuckTales collections. I remember getting stuff like, oh, I've got my little Gizmo Duck figure here off the shelf, and like showing it to you.
Yes.
And then you turned around and like got Darkwing Duck off the shelf, and you're showing me your Darkwing action figure. And he's like, "What?" And my daughter's sitting there going, "Can we just talk about Ahsoka, please? Let's. I don't care about Darkwing Duck and Gizmo Duck. Let's talk about Ahsoka." You know. So we might have pushed her to the side a little bit further, but no, she did a really good job of sort of keeping us on track, and that was I was really proud of that one.
That's episode 111.
Wow.
Yeah, well, consider this is episode 223.
Wow.
Yeah. But I have very, very fond memories of doing that, having that discussion with you guys, and having her on and having talk.
I remember that, and in my heart, if I can make one thing happen, there's something I've been trying to get done for since then.
I know what you're talking about, and
yes.
Oh my gosh, if you do it, you will be the greatest uncle ever.
So I'm
I know exactly what you're
fighting to
about.
try and figure it out.
But I know exactly what you're talking about, and we can talk later off mic. I've got a couple, like the short list. I've got like the B, C, the B, C, and D if A doesn't happen. But I could. There's a couple others I could tip your direction. You know. But I know exactly what you're talking about because we have talked about. You and I have talked about that privately.
I couldn't remember if I mentioned it to you. I had a feeling I did.
If you haven't, I've had the exact same thought.
Okay.
But I'm fairly certain you and I have talked about this. All right, we'll stop being vague now.
Dave.
Hey,
Speaking of vague.
Speaking of people who we push off to the side.
Dave,
I was like, you guys have a moment, you know. It's all good.
Enough about us. What do you think of us?
But enough about me. Have you read my book about me?
What this isn't. I'm just going to reference this one like you guys did. We did the beginner's guide to the Doctor Who episode. That was my introductory to Doctor Who. I didn't really know anything about it, so Matt came up with the idea, hit me with some questions. We'll have a discussion because Doctor Who is going to be on Disney soon, like at the end of the year.
Plus in November.
In November. So we did a thing to introduce people to Doctor Who. So, and then I started watching the 2005 season and on. I'm on the 4th season now. But the Ken Deep episode 219 that you did, I really enjoyed that one because you could see the passion that he has about the show just come through as he's talking to Ken Deep, who shares, I'm assuming, that kind of same passion. And they just,
No, I have passion for it. He runs conventions.
Right.
He wrote a book about it.
Yeah.
So
but now that I'm into, like, now that I started watching the show, some of the stuff they talked about, resonates with me now. So I can kind of, go along with some of the, obviously I don't know it all yet, but I can follow along with what they're saying now. Like, so in other words, if I just listened to that episode, I wouldn't know who Ken Deep is. I wouldn't know what we're talking about. But because of this podcast, getting introduced to it, I appreciated that episode, and it was a very good interview in my opinion. So, 219.
Oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's your 4th one, Ken Deep. Okay.
Yeah. You sound surprised.
No. I thought you were just kind of like shoehorning that in, and you were going to drop another one on top.
No.
Okay. Well.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've gone many directions with this show.
Oh yeah. I've even thrown in like sometimes like on the last episode, 221, right? 222. This is 223. So 222, we're recording right at the end. Oh, so how was season 3? So he throws me curveballs every now and then to give my review of the Doctor Who show, which is cool. It's fun. I don't mind, but it's just, Doctor Who is slowly getting introduced to the podcast.
Because why not?
Why not? Yeah.
Why not? We talked about MASH.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was another fun one. I remember doing the research for that on the
And now we get to my least favorite thing ever on this show, which is the MASH Atari game.
Oh, I remember you talking about that. Yeah.
I have scarred you with that.
Thing.
Yeah.
Have you seen this, Dave?
I have not seen it. No, but I heard. I listened to that episode. I remember you guys talking about
we
it.
will send you the YouTube footage of someone playing. It is the most horrifying thing I've ever witnessed. It is so tasteless. It is beyond tasteless. Oh my gosh!
Wait, what did you do? What? Why are you doing this? Yes.
Oh, it's like it was like a car accident. It literally you can't help but watch the car on fire. Mm-hmm. Like there are children burning inside the car, and you're like, oh my gosh! And you're just watching it, going, oh my gosh, those poor kids. Get the marshmallows.
Is this a game you can play still today, or no?
It was on the Atari like 45 years ago. It was. Oh, it's so tacky. It's so terrible. It's so horrible. It's literally the equivalent of roasting marshmallows on a car that's on fire with children trapped inside. That's how tasteless and tacky this thing is.
We were talking random MASH merchandise.
Yes.
This is episode 219. 191. I'm sorry, 191. 119 was Kendi. 191 from August 2022. And I was driving back from Virginia. My wife was driving, so I'm sitting there on my phone researching, like, what kind of, like, there couldn't be that much merchandise, but it's the #1 TV show, but it was in the 80s. So what kind of merchandise? Action figures. I knew about the action figures.
Sitcoms don't have action figures.
Board game. Okay, well, board game.
Yeah, game.
You can buy an actual still. Okay. An Atari game? Really? Yeah. Yes. Oh.
It is the most awful thing I've ever witnessed.
You didn't believe me.
No, and I'm so sorry that I looked it up. That was like if DuckTales broke me, the MASH Atari game just did me in. Oh, I'm still not over it. I still have emotional scars from that. Moving on, what is your fourth favorite episode of the show?
Again, in no particular order.
In no particular order, your fourth favorite.
The fourth one I'm going to mention,
yeah,
is the interview I did with Steve Lewis. This is episode 134, who is pretty much the creator of Gideon's Bakehouse in Orlando, Florida. Mm-hmm. And it's the cookies and cakes, basically, and he cold brew. And he's talking about his story of how growing up in New York, moving to Florida, and he's a musician, but then he needed a job, so he started working at a comic book store. He opened his own comic book store, and how he did his store differently by inviting in the artists that drew the artwork and having them sell stuff and having a different perspective of how to make these things work and giving back to these artists so they could get recognition and appreciation. People can appreciate their work and the person behind it. Kind of like how I like to do the interviews is like the same thing. I want these people on to be able to, so people can give back, realize the people behind the creative parts. With Matt Vogel and Jim Magon and
what we were talking about before.
All these guys. So he had a very similar business mindset, and how that he was able to convert into a cookie business, which has become very high demand. Just the two locations, the one in Disney Springs and the other one in Orlando. And local business, keeping everything local, but his love of, we're talking about cookies, but at the same time, we're talking about Batman and X-Men and Marvel because he's such a comic book guy. And I think we spent as much time, if not more, talking about comic books than we did about his business. But it was such a fantastic interview. And again, someone just so grateful with his time. And I got to meet him in person when we went later that year and got to talk to him in person and some of the guys that help him create the store. And he's such a great guy. Someone who says he's not much of a people person, but he is so genuine whenever you talk to him and get to meet him in person. And he's just such a great guy. And I heard an interview on another Disney podcast, which I will not mention names because of what I'm about to say, on that they interviewed him as well. Again, this ran almost over 2 hours of an interview with him. It was while everyone else was eating dinner. And that was the only reason why the interview stopped, because like, you need to go eat dinner. I'm like, oh, no, it'll be fine. But he was on another podcast just recently, actually this year. So my interview with him was in 2001, just as the store opened up. So, 2 years later. Not that I'm being
2021?
biased. Yeah, 2021. Sorry, thank you.
2001.
Yeah, 2021. But yeah, so he was on another podcast, and he gave a good interview, but I honestly felt he gave me a better interview.
Nice.
So, but either way, he's a great guy, great interview, and it was just a pleasure talking to him. It was something he said, I don't really do many interviews, but I'll do it for you. And I really appreciate it. And he had a great time. He kept on telling me how much he appreciated it. So,
nice.
Yeah, and if you get a chance, go by down there. Let me just preface it. Finish this off is because, and I know how much. I'm not trying to boast myself, not at all, but
maybe a little.
But when I went, because I went to his location, he wasn't there at the time, so I went in. It was early morning to get some of the cookies and stuff to try it out, and I'm talking to the person taking my order and wrapping up. And she goes, and I mentioned, asking if Steve was there, and she said, no. I'm like, well, I'm Matthew from the Disney Marvels podcast at that time, and just I wanted to stop by and say hi. And she's like, oh, you're the guy he keeps talking about. Yeah, so you're the one that, yeah, he was on my podcast. He told us he was on a podcast, and he kept on, going. Yeah, we need to listen to it. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that for him to do that, and tell his employees about it, and just to me, it sounds like he was excited about it too.
Nice.
Oh, that's good.
So,
yep.
Yeah. So yeah, that is definitely one of the ones up there for me. Mm-hmm. All right, I guess this would be your you did for your penultimate, so this would be the pinnacle one. This is what is
my fifth, the fifth one that I'm talking about.
Yes.
So these aren't in any order.
No.
But yeah, I don't think this comes as a surprise to anybody. We did top 5 favorite Muppets not named Kermit.
I had a feeling this was going to be on your list, considering how many times you told Vogel about it.
Yeah. No, because it's such a fun episode to do, because as we talked about it going into that episode, you called me and said, let's do top 5 favorite Muppets. And I went, all right. And like I said before, I immediately had my list. I immediately knew who my top 5 were going to be. I immediately knew what I was going to talk about. No prep work needed whatsoever. You could have called me then and there, and we could have done a show. Except that I sort of looked at the list, and I sort of questioned the fact, like, wait, Kermit's not on this list. And I called you, messaged you and said, Kermit on your list? No, I thought no. Okay, then we gotta explain that we gotta do top 5 favorite Muppets not named Kermit, or we're gonna get hate mail. And it's not that, as we've said, it's not that we don't like Kermit. We love Kermit, obviously, but all the reasons that Kermit is such a great character have been, that's a character who's been picked apart and dissected as much as a frog can be dissected. I mean, it's just it's out there. It's out there. It's been talked about. Everybody's talking how great Kermit was as a character, how great Jim was as a performer, how great Jim is as Kermit. The Kermit is just kind of an ambassador of kindness and goodwill and whatever else. It's all out there. It's all been discussed and written about and picked apart. You and I were not going to add anything new to that conversation, but for you and I to be able to sit and talk about Fozzie, about Gonzo, about Dr. Teeth, about who else did we talk about? Floyd, New Zealand, Beauregard came up. Nigel, the orchestra leader, came up. We talked about Rolf the dog. We talked about every character, Johnny Fiamma and Sal. We talked about Uncle Deadly. I mean, talk about trying to. We were saying earlier about squeezing characters in while we were talking about, and we totally did that on that show.
Which is why I didn't even title it top 5. I just said top Muppets. Not Kermit. It was episode 51, going back to 51 here.
Yeah, because I remember Johnny Fiamma was kind of when we do these top 5s, it's always we always do top 7 because there's always that expectation that, as just happened tonight, we were knocking stuff off your list almost immediately.
Yeah.
So I'm all right, let me go to 7, and if I can work these characters. If this comes up, we can talk about it. Mm-hmm. And Johnny Fiamma was 6th or 7th on my list, and I just didn't have any place for him. And then you mentioned Sal Manila, and I'm like, bang, I can fit Johnny into the conversation now. It was that just great conversation. And again, we could not only talk about these characters, but it gave us that wide opening to talk about the performers as well, and who does. And give everybody a sense of, Jim was obviously Kermit, but he wasn't just Kermit. He was Dr. Teeth too, and he was Rolf, and he was Nigel, the orchestra conductor, and he was all of these. He's all those things. Frank is brilliant, and he's Miss Piggy, but he's also Fozzie, and he's Animal, and he's Sam Eagle. And we can talk about that. And so, Jerry Nelson, God, Jerry did so many characters on the Muppet Show. To be able to honor him and talk about his characters. That was just a great episode to as I said at the top of this show, to be able to share that passion in that way, my passion for those characters and my respect and my love for the people who make those characters happen. God, that was a great episode to do. That was and then of course that's another one where the longer you listen to the episode, the more we do go off the rails, because we knew at that time. It was, I think it was the second episode that I was on. The first episode at the time was the longest, and then somebody, or it was one of the longest episodes, and then somebody beat that by 2 minutes, and I was like, oh, hell no. And I took off on the Muppets, and I was like, I will stretch this thing as long as I possibly can. The record has been beaten since then, and I have no interest in reclaiming the record at this point. But at that time,
2 hours and 18
taken that away from me. And we ran, and you can hear me get really punched at the end, just stretching this thing out. I will talk about anything. And actually, one of the few times we were actually on topic, but I would just keep throwing well, we haven't talked about yet. We haven't talked about this character. We haven't talked about, this forgotten character who appeared in season 4. All these things. It was a really, really, really fun episode to listen to. That's actually another one I should go back and listen to, because that's another one that makes me smile. I had so much fun doing that show. And when people ask me about the podcast, it's literally I that and Mike Quinn, those are the two I ask people, those are the two you should listen to if you want to hear me do a podcast and talk about nonsense. That's the one. That's sort of literally me, a pig in slop, just me in my element. No offense to Miss Piggy. I just having the time of my life. Again, chatting with my best buddy about something that we both love. It was a great episode and a lot of fun to do. Top 5 favorite Muppets not named Kurt.
Yeah, that was a good one. Dave?
Yep. All right, my last one is going to be the last one we did, because speaking about the passion and stuff of obviously he's got the Muppets, he loves them. You got Doctor Who. Star Wars is my passion, and playing the overdue Jedi Fallen Order game was I should have played it 4 years ago, but when I started playing it, that's when I started picking your brain. I was like, have you done a review on this game yet? And you're like, no, I haven't. I don't think I have, actually. And I'm like, well, Jedi Survivor is coming up soon. Maybe we should do a review of Fallen Order to lead into Survivor. And you were kind enough to greenlight the episode. And I had so much fun with that one, recording that one, because it was fresh in the brain. We talked about it. It fell into it. I loved it. Every aspect of that game hit for me. So to actually sit there and talk to you about that was a home run. So I thank you for that one. And, hopefully we can do the review of Survivor somewhere down the road. Not 4 years later.
In another 4 years.
Yeah, not 4 years later.
Actually, I even still have the game still sitting on my desk here.
Yeah.
No, my pleasure. And I truly appreciate anytime you guys come with it. Hey, why don't we talk about this? Because it's one less episode for me to go in panic going, okay,
yeah.
In 5 years, what haven't I talked about? But yeah, so if you haven't listened to that was just last week, episode 222. Mm-hmm. That was a lot. It was fun because I'd played the game last year, again, behind the ball on that one, but how well done that game is and how fun it is.
Yes.
It just brings more life back into the Star Wars saga. Again, playing how many bad Star Wars games over the years.
Yeah.
Right.
To have something that is original, fresh, well done, puts you right in there. Great narrative, great graphics, great gameplay.
And the story was beyond phenomenal. So
yeah.
So to have a game that just nails it on every aspect is rare. And that's why I felt, this needs to be talked about. Whether it's 4 years later or not, it needs to be discussed.
So, all right, yeah, that was, that's a good one. So I guess I have to round it off now with my last one. It's hard to narrow down 222 other episodes and say, okay, this one. There's many different reasons. And I've had such a blessing of so many other people, friends and people who are in the business on the show to be able to talk to them. Matt Marlino from Love of the Mouse, Tash and Mercedes from the Chat Disney. I'm blanking. Anthony King, Daniel Ross, Dan Zaire from Coffee with Kenobi, Force Ghost Conversations before with Anthony King, Stefania Bell from ESPN, Matt. I'm trying to remember names off the top of it. Matthew Berry from ESPN, Jim Hill, all these people on this show over the years, and just to kind of say, and not to give them appreciation, is kind of what I'm saying. But if I had to pick one specific episode that sticks out in my mind, would be back to episode 83. And this was in the early days of the pandemic. It was May. It was the beginning part of May when I recorded. It came out. It was still around the beginning part of May when it came out. And I want to say It's the only voiceover actor I've had on. It'll be Daniel Ross. My interview with him. And I wasn't sure talking to Donald Duck where this would go. So I actually he started off with Donald Duck intro. So I've actually had Donald Duck on the show. And like Dave has all the Star Wars stuff back there, and I know you have your Muppet stuff. He had Transformers all over his office.
Oh, wow.
Awesome.
It was awesome. But he also did voice Starscream in one of the Transformer movie games.
Oh, right.
And talking about some of his other work, and then talking about Donald Duck. And then he did something because it was right around my youngest birthday, right around Ryan's birthday. And I will never be able to thank him enough for doing this. And I think it's one of the few times I've actually cried on a recording. He sang Happy Birthday to Ryan. And the reason why it was so special, like I said, was at the beginning of the pandemic. So Ryan could not have a birthday party, could not celebrate with his grandparents, with any of his friends. He was getting gypped out of a birthday. Mm-hmm. To have Donald Duck personally sing him Happy Birthday is something I never expected out of this show.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And is something I have that recording still on my phone. I edited it out and just have the recording of him sing it. I've played it from every year after, and I'm sure he rolls his eyes at me now. It's like, Dad, do we have to play that again? And my answer is yes, because of how special it is. I don't think right now he knows how special that is. But when he grows up, to say that my dad was able to get Donald Duck to sing me personally Happy Birthday.
Happy birthday.
Mm.
So
that's great.
Yeah, that's I think kind of the pinnacle for me, that, you know, a moment like that. It's just fantastic.
Yeah.
So I switching topic briefly, but staying on topic, I have what I'd say would be our listeners' top 5, and I'm going by this by kind of how many list downloads people listen to. So
what are the 5 episodes that my daughter listened to?
I have to go back. I don't remember. Episode 2, the MCU. When I was talking about it,
really?
The MCU. So all these are most of them are pretty far back there. It's very strange.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because they've had the most time to. Episode 3, old ideas are new again. Episode 1, 20 years on, which is talking about the 20th anniversary of the Animal Kingdom, whenever, and my time there. Episode 134, which I just mentioned, the Steve Lewis of Gideon's Bakehouse interview.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and strangely enough, it's
probably because he's had all of his employees. Like,
probably.
Yeah, I think you got to listen to this.
No, there's actually more downloads than he has employees. By 2, but yes. And then for whatever reason, strangely enough, the top episode on this, episode 20, where I talk about the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. I have no idea why that is our top episode. And it's been sitting there as the top episode for years.
Wow.
Yeah.
You were really hurting for ideas back in the old days. The Mickey Mouse, really?
Yes.
That was like a whole. That was like before you and I was gonna say before you. Yes, that was like before you even had like us on.
Yes.
Wow. I kind of want to hear that.
But add it to the list.
Like that one's just got another download. Because I want to hear, like, I'm kind of curious to know what this show was like that far back when it hadn't quite found its footing.
I should go back and listen to it because I don't remember what that one was.
I'm curious, how long is that episode?
It's like 30 minutes.
Yeah, it's probably about 30 minutes.
I was gonna say you can't do more than because we're well over 2 hours at this point. There's
anytime it's just me, it's usually a half-hour episode.
Half-hour, okay. Because I was gonna say there's no way you did like 2 hours on the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, and if you did, Dave and I need to take you out. I'm not even saying like we need to take you out for like drinks or something. Like, no, we need to like eliminate you.
It's 237 minutes. No, it's a glorious 3-hour finale.
Tribute to all things, but mostly to all TV shows, but mostly Mickey Mouse Clubhouse.
29 minutes, 57 seconds.
Oh, those are the top 5, really. So you said it was 3-2 or 2-3-1. Steve Lewis, and then Mickey Mouse, and then episode 20, Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. Wow. Really want to listen to Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. Maybe the reason why it gets the most downloads is because it's like the shortest of the show.
No, the episode before that was even shorter.
Wow.
Where I talk about so episode 19, I talk about Michael Jackson.
What?
What does Michael Jackson have to do with this?
Captain EO.
Oh, right.
That was 13 minutes and 55 seconds. I think because I kind of had to throw that one together quickly at the end. Wow. No, actually, there is an episode that was just. Is this just me? Yeah, no. Actually, there is an episode that is just me that is 41 minutes long.
Is that the longest you went on by yourself?
I think so.
It's 40 minutes? Okay.
Yeah. Holidays at Walt Disney World.
Okay.
Well, back then, yes. I have now since outdone myself with newer episodes. Because what was it? The one I just for instance, the one I just did, episode 221 about the Disney 100 exhibition. That was 53 minutes 29 seconds, and that was me walking around the exhibit.
Sure.
Wasn't that 5 years ago? So back then, wasn't that like the 20 to 30 minute? That was like what they said a podcast should be around, like, you know what I mean? Like it's evolved over the course of time, where episodes are longer now.
And even people I talk to now, it's like, well, the podcast should be about half an hour. I said, that's great. A lot of my friends who I've met in the industry who do podcasts go an hour to 2 hours.
Yeah.
So
a lot of my friends won't shut up.
That too.
I think the bigger problem here. I got 2 guests who come on regularly. One talks about Muppets and won't shut up. The other one's got a steering wheel taped to his wall. We don't know why. We don't question it.
There's been so many.
Accept all types.
When me and Matt, like, when we think about what we're going to record, we're like, are we really, like, episode 218, I didn't bring it up, but 218 was the episode we did where I said we really don't have anything to talk about until I Google searched it, and we found the 2 things, like the business, like the stuff that was going on with Disney with Iger and all that. So, but that's like, I was like, how long are we going to go on with that? That episode was probably, what, an hour and 15 minutes? Because me and him usually go, and we're like...
You're like, well, maybe we'll get a half hour of it. I'm like, let's just go with it and see what happens.
Hour and 15, hour and a half later, we're still going.
When all else fails, just pull out the footage. Just play the audio from the footage of the Atari game of MASH. and the horrifying screams of us going, what? No. No.
No.
Why? No. Oh my God! It keeps. There's a second level. It's the second level's the same as the first one. Why? No. So I'm curious, Dave. What was the first episode that you did of this show? What was the first thing that you talked about as a guest?
That was the Skywalker. Ranking the Skywalker.
Right. You said that earlier. Right.
177.
See, I don't listen. Yeah. I don't listen to this show. Not even the episodes that I'm in. Not even.
Yeah, that was the new one.
You said that earlier.
Yeah, that was because it was my first attempt at this and Pete's first attempt at it. And it's funny because like I was, prepping for this one tonight. I went back and I was listening to some of the stuff, and I'm not saying I'm anywhere near a professional, but I could tell the difference in the way I was speaking from then till now.
Yeah.
I've gotten a lot better as far as,
more comfortable.
Yeah, more comfortable, more confident behind the microphone and stuff like that. So it's
going to the point that you've bought a microphone.
Exactly.
But go for the guy who refused to do it to
Right.
now
to owning a microphone and a stand and the whole nine. So
this isn't even his only podcast.
No, yeah, I have another
he
one on the side.
Commits podultery against us.
Yeah, well, because I was talking to this my other friend about this show, and he listened to a few episodes and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden he, I guess, was thinking about throwing out a show. So he knew I was on this one, so he poached me. He's like, "Can you, you want to come on my show?" And I'm like, "Okay, I don't know how I'm gonna juggle everything, but let's go for it." So I'm on I do his too. So I went from, I don't want to do this, I'm embarrassed, I don't know, because that night I couldn't sleep because my brain was still in like over mode. Did I sound, how ridiculous did I sound? Whatever. I should have said this, I should have said that. And it was hard for me to sleep. I don't know if that's, what's supposed to happen, but that's how my brain worked.
Right.
But I went from that to, hey, yeah, let's go. Let's keep recording shows. I don't care. It's weird. But I love it. It's fun. It's a good little getaway from, like we said before, it's a good getaway from your normal routine life.
Right.
I definitely want to get away from that sometimes.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And that's kind of what we hope to provide to you, the listeners who might still be around there. It is an escape.
Mm-hmm.
And for you to kind of just sit back and enjoy whatever banter comes out of our mouth.
Yeah, exactly.
And but don't worry, there'll still be more. In fact, Matt, what's right around the corner?
What is right around the corner?
Any kind of mayhem on your mind?
There's a lot of mayhem on my mind. We're going to preview this. We're going to talk about this because May 10th is coming. And I'm not doing anything except sitting my butt down in front of Disney Plus and watching Muppets Mayhem all day. I am so excited about Muppets Mayhem. And I'm going to come back and on the show, and we're going to talk about Muppets Mayhem, which is the new show on Disney Plus featuring, centered around Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem. And if you listened to episode 51, I think we said, where we talked about our top 5 favorite Muppets, both Dr. Teeth and Floyd were at the top of my list. They're my absolute 2 favorite characters from the Muppets.
And I go back to 95, you get to hear Floyd on the show.
We had Matt Vogel on the show, and I think we actually in that episode we actually somehow name checking Muppets and trying to squeeze characters in. And I think that was one of those things we've talked about Floyd and Dr. Teeth. We got to talk about Animal Zoot, Janice, and Lips as well. So yeah, it's a new show coming to Disney Plus May 10th. It centers around Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem Band as they try to release an album, and then also dropping on May 10th in hand with that will be the album that Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem record for the show.
So that album will be real.
Are they doing the full? Are they doing the full season dump, or are they just doing? Are they doing
10 episodes? They're going to drop all 10 episodes on May 10th. And give me a second, because our friends at toughpigs.com. Now we're into slightly spoiler territory, but they have released the album list. So if you don't want to be spoiled, turn the show off now, because I'm going to read some of these.
If you haven't already.
It's a mix of some original stuff and some covers. They actually just released. You can Google this if you search Electric Mayhem Rock On YouTube. You will hear the new Electric Mayhem single, I guess for lack of a better term, Rock On. It's on Spotify already.
It's a lot of fun.
They're going to do a cover of True Colors. Let's see. God Only Knows by the Beach Boys, Bridge Over Troubled Water, Rock and Roll All Night.
Yeah.
Love. All You Need Is Love. Of course, Can You Picture That from the original Muppet movie? But of course, it's been re-recorded with Bill Beretta and Matt Vogel and Dave Rudman doing the vocals as the characters. So I'm looking so forward. You can actually pre-order the album now on iTunes and Amazon Music and Spotify and whatever else, wherever album. They're going to release the thing onto vinyl. Yeah, I've been waiting for this for like 40 years, man. I cannot wait anymore.
Yep.
I'm so excited.
So there you have it. That will be coming soon, plus many, many other things.
Yeah.
Guardians.
Guardians.
Guardians 3.
See, again, Marvel movie. I have no interest. I like Guardians of the Galaxy. I should be interested, but I'm so just burnt out. I have no interest in seeing Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
I have expectations for this one, so hopefully they don't let us down. But we will let you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Mandalorian review.
Yeah, we should do that at some point.
Yeah, just wrap up season 3. I should finally finish watching season 3.
Oh, you did? You finally got the last episode?
No, I got the second to last episode. I still watched the last episode.
I was surprised by how short the last episode was.
You want to know nothing.
Oh, well, I didn't want to go any further than just saying it's short. It's surprisingly
it's
short.
like 40 minutes, I think, runtime. So maybe 35 without the credits.
Yeah, I think it's only like 30, 35.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's short. I mean, it's good, but
yeah,
it was surprisingly short. Like I kept like, no, something else gonna happen now. Some like monster gonna pop up out of nowhere and eat Grogu and send them on another event. Something.
Mythosaur.
Yeah. So.
All right. So but I gotta finish watching that so we could talk about it. And then we'll see where things take us.
Yes.
Yay! Because there's all sorts of stuff. Because we got Indy. We're gonna have to talk about at some point when that comes out.
Yes. We should maybe do an Indiana Jones review of the first 3 movies.
He's on board.
We're not acknowledging the fourth one.
I was gonna say
no. There's only 3 movies. What are you talking about?
No, I don't mind the fourth one that badly. I mean, I admit it's got flaws, but I don't mind it.
I have to go back and rewatch it.
I can actually watch it. We can talk about this when we get to. But I can watch it as a sort of trilogy of Raiders, Last Crusade, and whatever the fourth one is called. I can't remember now.
Crystal Skull.
Crystal Kingdom. Crystal Skull. I can watch those 3 kind of as a trilogy. If you look at what the relationships that he's dealing, it's the relationship between him and Marion, and then the second one is the relationship between him and his father, and then the third one is the relationship between him and his son. You know, there's stuff there that kind of repeats, and so I can sort of watch it as a trilogy in that sense. How Indy relates to people. This guy who's used to working on his own and having the love of his life and then having his relationship with his father and then coming back to his girlfriend, coming back to Marion and having this son that he has to deal with. Spoiler alert, by the way, if you haven't seen Crystal Skull. Sorry. It's 15 years. You should know by now.
Yeah.
Because the other thing that does appear in all 3 of those films is the Lost Ark. The Lost Ark. Spoiler alert! It's the Lost Ark is in all 3 of the films. So I see the 3 as. I mean, it makes a sort of cameo in 3 and 4, or it's referenced in both 3 and 4. So I see them as sort of the arc of the trilogy of the Ark of the Covenant and Indy and how he relates to the people around him. That's my take on it.
Okay.
So I actually like the fourth one more than I like the second one.
Okay.
But we can talk about that more when we're actually talking about Indiana Jones.
Yep. Yes. Yeah, we'll do that sometime in June.
That'll be great.
Put that on the slate for June. And and then there's the Ahsoka series too that somebody might want to talk about.
Yeah,
that.
somebody's going to come back and talk about that, I'm sure.
Yeah, someone who's not on the show may have a slight interest.
Somebody who actually listens to the show.
Yeah. We don't care if you listen or not. We just want you to download. So, gentlemen, thank you. It's been one heck of a ride, and I look forward to what's next, which we just talked about some of it, and I
look forward to the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Well, thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Matt.
Yeah. We'll be talking soon.
Got it.
Well, that will do it for this week's show. Please let us know what some of your favorite moments, favorite episodes were of the past 5 years. Join the conversation on our Facebook group. Our Facebook page is facebook.com/WDMagicCast. Our Facebook group is facebook.com/group/WDMagicCast. On Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Twitter, we can be all found at WDMagicCast. You could leave us a voice message, be heard on the show yourself. Do this through the Anchor app or Anchor.fm website, or record a message on your own device, your smartphone, tablet, computer, whatever you have, and email it to us. You could also use the email to connect with us with any questions or suggestions you may have for the show, and that address is email@wdmagiccast.com. Links to all these are in the show notes and are on our website, which is wdmagiccast.com. I want to thank you for your time. I know how little time you have, how little time we all have. I can definitely appreciate that this week. The fact that we get to spend some of this time together truly means a lot to me and the rest of us over here at WD Magiccast. We truly do appreciate each and every one of you, each and every moment we get to spend together. Thank you so much. Please let people know about the show. If you like the show, leave us a rating or review on Apple Podcast, on Spotify. We have all 5-star reviews at the moment. Keep them coming. We need more. They will do their part to help promote the show, or you can also do your part by, besides leaving us a rating or review, which helps out substantially. Share out on social network. Share out a link. Let people know about the show that you're listening to, and have them check it out as well. Also, you could just tell people about your friend, tell your friends, any other Disney people that you meet or know about, tell them about the WD Magiccast. Because the bigger the family, the better. Walt believed in a big Disney family, and so do I. Don't forget to subscribe to the show while you're at it. This way you always know when new episodes are posted. While you're at it, also consider becoming a premium subscriber. Really help the show out. You can do this over at anchor.fm/WDMagicCast/support. You can also check out our merchandise shop on TeePublic, where you get yourself some cool WD Magiccast stuff. Shirts, hoodies, phone cases, coffee mugs, whole bunch of really, really neat stuff. Well made. Lots of times, lots of sales going on there too. So make sure you check it out and help the show out this way and get something cool for yourself. Links to these are in the show notes and on the website as well. Because remember, this show is brought to you by listeners like you. Whatever you are facing out there, it is never too late to ask for help. It may be the most challenging thing you do, but there is help out there for you. It may be a stranger, it may be someone you just met, it may be someone you haven't met yet, but there is help, and help will be given to those who ask for it. Never think you are not worth it. Never think you are not important. Never think you do not mean a lot to someone else. You are special. There is only one person like you, and there's a good reason for it. No one can be like you. The world needs you. Other people need you. Don't ever think less of yourself. You are a light in the world. Let your light shine for everyone to see. Never give up, never give in. Be your own hero. Now I'd like to end this week's show with a quote from Walt Disney himself. I believe that entertainment usually fulfills some vital need and normal curiosity for every man, woman, and child who seeks it. Again, that's Walt Disney. Thank you again for listening, everyone, and I'll see you next time.